Hello and welcome back. Time for business news now with Catherine Nicholson. Kat, let's start with the markets and trade just opening up here in Europe.
Yes, that's right. I can give you the latest figures just come in a few minutes ago. Stocks starting the week slightly down across the board, in fact, in London, Paris and Frankfurt. FTSE 100 opening down around 0.25%. The CAC 40 in Paris down 0.37%. This after 8 straight days of gains. And the DAX in Frankfurt also ever so slightly down, but of course very early moments there. We can look over to Asia, how things have gone over there. The Nikkei in Japan, it's finished ever so slightly up, which is a strong performance over the last 5 days, despite just a small gain today. In fact, the Nikkei hit an 8-month high earlier on in the trading day, and we can see some other good figures for Shanghai and the Kospi in South Korea. The Hang Seng, the only one losing after quite a strong performance earlier on.
Well, staying in Asia, and I believe Christine Lagarde, head of the IMF, is in China at the moment, talking about the state of the world's economy, no less.
Yes, she's been speaking out saying that we need to be optimistic, but cautiously optimistic, basically. We've stepped back from the brink, but we shouldn't be lulled into a false sense of security, basically saying don't get ahead of yourselves just yet. She's also had a few words for China specifically, saying that, for one, they should try and sort out their trade imbalances. Take a look at our report.
Calling the world economic recovery a marathon, not a sprint, the head of the International Monetary Fund offered cautious words as she addressed politicians and business leaders at a conference in Beijing.
The world economy has stepped back from the brink, and we have causes to be a little bit more optimistic. But optimism should not give us a sense of comfort, and certainly should not lull us into a false sense of security.
Lagarde said policy actions taken in the wake of the global financial crisis were paying off, with US economic indicators looking more upbeat and European efforts to solve the debt crisis in Greece easing the threat of a default. But the IMF chief warned public and private debt still remained high in many countries and pointed out the threat of rising oil prices to global growth. The cautious optimism comes as Lagarde attends a 2-day forum on China's development. She praised Beijing for its leadership and adept policy skills in helping the global recovery, but said it needs to focus on 3 areas.
First of all, we think that it's important that China can continue to support growth. Second, to continue shifting the drivers of economic growth away from investment and exports and towards domestic consumption. And third, China could certainly improve the household livelihood.
Lagarde also said China's yuan could become a reserve currency in the future, but added the country needed a roadmap for a stronger, more flexible exchange rate system.
And Catherine, the oil company Chevron is in trouble for an oil spill off the coast of Brazil.
Yeah, in fact, 17 executives from Chevron could individually be facing legal action over this. The Brazilian government planning to bring charges against them, and they've actually stopped these individuals from leaving the country until an investigation is completed. Now, prosecutors are saying they're looking into charges including environmental crimes, not very specific there, and Chevron declining to comment so far, as you might expect. This is all to do with a spill from an offshore well. At the end of last year, we saw 400,000 litres of oil spilling, which is obviously a sizable amount. And there are suggestions that there are new spills going on at the moment. So this is what the investigators want to know about. They've asked for a detailed report from Chevron and given them until tomorrow to submit that. I mean, obviously, these things got huge environmental impact, but could prove very costly for Chevron in terms of the cleanup and potential compensation. So they don't want to be going the same way as BP with the Deepwater Horizon catastrophe.
Course not. And some breaking companies news now with a good opportunity for a pun.
Yes, because I love a pun. This is to do with the delivery service UPS, which is spending a packet, buying up one of its big rivals. Not bad for the morning anyway.
Very good, Kat.
They're acquiring TNT Express, which is a Dutch company, for 5.16 billion euros. TNT being the second biggest delivery company in Europe after DHL. And this is a deal that's been in the offing for quite a while, so UPS probably feeling very pleased with themselves, beating off competition from FedEx as well.
Oh, well, congratulations to them.
Well done, UPS.
Well, looking to Libya now, where the stock market is starting its first full week back in action. It's reopened for trade last Thursday, and it's now a year since a foreign military intervention began in Libya. Jay Barker has been looking into how much has changed in the meantime.
It may be a feeble ring, but it marked a momentous occasion for Libya, the reopening of its stock market.
This is a good sign that Libyans have started to put aside their weapons. And business is back again.
The Libyan stock exchange has been closed since forces loyal to former dictator Muammar Gaddafi took over its building in February last year. But with the country still getting back on its feet after a protracted civil war, analysts are cautious, and so are investors. The exchange opened with 10 companies trading at a combined market capital of $3.1 billion. But on the first day of trading, the turnover was less than $10,000. One of the biggest concerns investors expressed was that Libya still lacks a regulatory framework. Under the Gaddafi regime, the country's only source of revenue, the oil industry, was effectively state-controlled, and not much has changed. But what has changed is Libya's oil production levels. Attacks on oil fields during the civil war drove many companies exploring and drilling oil in the country away, and production plummeted from around 1.6 million barrels a day to as little as 60,000 barrels. However, the country looks like it's starting to get back on the road to recovery, with the National Oil Corporation predicting it will be back at pre-conflict output by the end of the year. But with the interim administration, the National Transitional Council saying it will leave any new deals to a democratically elected government, it may be a while before foreign investors can or will jump in.
Well, safety problems with the world's biggest passenger plane are back in the news. Airbus engineers have found wing cracks in 67 of its A380 Super Jumbos. And the latest reports are that the problem's going to be a lot more expensive than predicted for its parent company, EADS. Reports over the weekend say the cost is set to spiral from just over €100 million into several hundred million euros.
The French playmaker Dassault has been giving some confident statements about a huge deal with India. The company is the preferred bidder for a defence contract for 126 fighter jets. Now, Dassault's CEO has been telling the French press he's confident the whole thing will be signed off within 6 months. But knock-on effects for industry within France could be limited, with many of the planes set to be built overseas.
Now, for a story that's perfect for breakfast time, Catherine, it's about tea.
Yes, not just any old tea. Would I give you just any old brew?
No.
How do you fancy what's being charmingly called panda poo tea?
Well,
Not so much? Let me tell you about it.
Pitch it to
Doesn't
me.
sound super appetising. You're not actually drinking the panda poo, I have to point out. It's being launched today and it's being billed as the world's most expensive tea ever. Now, a canny entrepreneur in China hit on the idea of using panda manure, let's say, as fertiliser. He says that pandas' digestive systems are inefficient and that they leave plenty of nutrients in what comes out. So he's grown tea in it, and the first batches are very pricey, selling for more than €26,000 for half a kilo. That works out at €52 a gram or €104 a cup.
So that's some pricey panda poo right there.
It is. And we don't know how tasty it is, but we'll find out.
Definitely. Thank you very much, Kat Nicholson, there with the business news. That's all for now. We are back in 2 minutes.